gentlemen, welcome to the Leadership Race Debate. We're joined today by the East 15 and Loughton students. We're joined for the debate for presidential position for Loughton as well as Black officer, just to bring a bit more engagement towards Loughton in general, but also bring more light towards the role of Black officer, which is a new one in Loughton, and a relatively new one at least. And so it's important to bring everyone together. So I'll ask the candidates to present themselves very quickly, say what they study, what year they're in, and who they are, and then we'll get cracking with the questions. They'll have 2 minutes to answer every time. I have a timer on my hand, so let's keep it within the rules, obviously. And then they'll have a final minute to wrap things up at the end. So we're going to start up with Lo. Can you please tell us who you are, what you study, and what year you're in?
Yeah, thanks, Tom. Hi, I'm Lo Feliciani Ojeda. I'm a first-year theater directing MFA student. And yeah, that's me.
It's a pretty short introduction, to be honest. Georgia?
Hiya, I'm Georgia Wilson. I'm a second year on the BA Acting and Contemporary Theatre.
Great, thank you. And Helena?
Hello, my name is Helena Harper, and I am a first year in the MFA Acting International course.
Great, thank you very much. So I'll start with the two prepared questions which you've all had, and then we'll move on to questions that have been sent in by the public. So first question, what will you bring to the role? So let's start with Georgia.
I've got a series of things I think I'd bring to the role. First off, I have great leadership skills. I spent a lot of time, 3 years, as a military cadet, and I spent a lot of time abroad and properly doing leadership exercises. It was a really great time. I also did a lot of volunteer work and worked with children, so I have a lot of great leadership skills there. I have a lot of drama school experience. This is my third year in drama school. I have been to drama school for about 3 years now, and I have tons of experience auditioning, visiting different schools, and I did a lot of research before I applied. So I know a lot about the drama school experience. I've worked on audition panels for about 3 years, whether they were cert, first year, or second year. I have a great work ethic. I did freelance work as a model, which required me to manage my own funding, and also get in contact with business owners. I've worked multiple jobs since I was 15 years old. While I was 15, I did my GCSEs homeless, which required a lot of personal responsibility on my part, and I'm a great listener.
Great, thank you very much. And Lo?
Yeah, I think first and foremost for me, I am currently the student community officer for people of color in Loughton. So right now I have a full, 3/4 of a year experience of what it is like to be a part of the SU, which I think is important because, I mean, I did jump right into my first year and jump into the SU, and it took me a couple of months to get there, but now I understand how the SU works, how Parliament works, the differences between the SU and the school, and what the SU can do for you. I'm also a directing student, which is inherently about leadership, and for me, leadership is about communicating, collaborating, and listening, communicating as efficiently and as quickly as possible, collaborating with many different types of people. Currently, we're doing a module on collaboration, so I'm doing a whole 6 weeks on how to work with different types of people in the theater world, and also listening. I'm someone who does not know every single experience, nor am I planning to or appear to be that way, and so I want to listen and be aware of how people are. I've also had 4 years of undergrad drama training in the States, and so both as an MFA student and as an undergrad student, I think I can have an awareness of what are the issues with MFA students and with undergrad students in drama schools and how they connect and how they don't connect. Yeah, thank you so much.
Great, thank you. And Helena?
Hi. So I think the biggest thing that I can bring to this role is leadership and organization. In my undergraduate university, I was the president of the mental health and wellness organization on my campus. I also had the opportunity to be the student representative for San Francisco State. And then I went to a national conference for college students, their mental health, mental well-being. And through that, I learned a lot about how to organize meetings, how to talk to different organizations, how to talk to administration, how to be organized, how to manage your time wisely. I was a full-time student at the time. I was also commuting about 2 hours from my house to San Francisco. So that required me to manage my time and my work effectively. I'm also someone who is very personable. I'm very open to having discussions. I'm very open to listening and to taking in information. I'm also not someone who's afraid to have difficult conversations. I was in pageants for a very long time, and because of that, I can speak on my feet very quickly, and I can understand and try to comprehend and answer effectively as well. So yeah, I think those are the main things I think I can bring.
Great, thank you very much. So the next question is, what are the biggest issues that students are facing right now? So we'll start with you, Helena, again.
I think the biggest issue students are facing right now is loneliness. With COVID, it's been very difficult for students to connect. I know that my own cohort only has 30 students, and we are finding it very difficult to connect with each other. Half of the cohort is a 1 year and half is 2 year. And even though we do like Zoom meetings, and when we were in person, we got to meet each other from a distance, it still feels like we don't know each other, and it feels like we can't connect to each other. So I think that's something I would definitely try to work on. There's only 3 other Black students aside from myself in my cohort, and I took it upon myself to connect us through Messenger, because if not, we wouldn't have been connected. And there's only 4 of us. So I wanted to make sure that we were all able to not feel lonely and make sure that we had other people to rely on.
Great, thank you. And Georgia?
Well, I took the time to speak to students personally, and I did a poll, and something I found overwhelming is discrimination. I took the time personally to read the Equality, Diversity, and Inclusion Policy Act and East 15's Anti-Racism Plan, and they're both absolutely fantastic, cohesive pieces of document, but in reality, the school taking accountability of those words and upholding them needs to be just as airtight as the words themselves. I mean, having spoken to a lot of students about personal experience recently, they still feel like there's discrimination with sexism, racism, microaggressions with homophobia and transphobia, and especially disability. A lot of people talked to me about invisible illness and how hard it was to advocate for themselves, and that the school tends to ask, what can you do, instead of what can we do for you? And I find that really distressing. If I were to take this position, I'd want to do a lot of research into how I can help the differently abled community to find a better way to work at drama school, because I feel like this is a very drama school exclusive issue. I don't feel like necessarily people with invisible illnesses and chronic illnesses are having such a hard time explaining their attendance to lecturers in psychology courses or trade schools. So honestly, I think that discrimination, though it's been heavily mentioned in the past, is still a really big deal, and we need to keep shining a spotlight on it. Thank you.
Great, thank you very much. And Lo?
Yeah, for me, I think the biggest issue facing students is the effects of COVID-19 and what that has done to in-person teaching. And especially in a drama school environment where a lot of our learning is kinesthetic. It's not just on camera work. And even then, Zoom camera isn't on camera. But I specifically think about the effects of COVID learning because it cascades and affects everything. It affects mental health that students are facing right now. It affects loneliness that students are facing right now. I've been in this room for 8-7 weeks by myself, and I can speak to that. It also affects the different types of ableism, racism, misogyny, sexism that's happening. It cascades because you look at a Zoom screen and you see a bunch of people that don't look like you at all, it can be very isolating. And also, when you have experiences with guest lecturers who have come in and made microaggressions, for instance, personally against me, there is no one I can turn to or look to in the room, because we are isolated, and that just creates a cascade of different things. Drama people are social, I believe. Like, they really want to be with people. I think that's a part of why we chose this area of professions, and it's hard to do that over Zoom. The most effective way I've seen it is when Ibrahim did a dance party and a couple of students came, and that was exciting because people were letting loose and being free. And for me, that is the importance of social connection. All of these things are affected by COVID-19 and what it has done to online learning. And I would really want to push for that, to change that for students.
Great, thank you so much. How will you effectively challenge the school to ensure the student voice is heard? Georgia?
I think that's an absolutely fantastic question, and I think the answer is knowledge. Not only would it be my responsibility as president of East 15 to help make the SU make differences to the school, it's about informing the students on what's happening. I, as a person, will be able to do a bit, yes, but my privilege to educate the students on the matters in this school and encourage them to make a difference is what's really going to change the school. I think it's incredibly important that we always make decisions as a majority, and I think it would be an amazing idea to give students more option on what they believe to be important and have maybe a more open dialogue, because I heard someone talking today about how hard they find it with the SU, kind of, I don't know quite words they described, but they just found it really hard to talk to SU about things. And I feel like if we had, maybe perhaps when COVID-19 came back, more open nights, maybe at our SU, speaking to students about subjects, like an open questions night instead of Zoom meetings, it would be incredibly effective. I think the best way to help the school is to empower and educate the people in the school about what's going on and make sure they're confident in the decisions that they want us to make.
Great, thank you. And Lo?
Yeah, I think for me, the most important thing is to get students to know that the SU exists. That, I think, is the hardest difference between, for instance, Colchester and Southend and Loughton, is that a lot of Loughton students just don't know that the SU exists. Again, obviously, totally affected by COVID-19 and the limit of being on campus. But for me personally, the way to have the student's voice be heard is to always be there as a supportive voice for the student, and not to, when there are different issues that are happening with faculty or different students, not to have forms of victim blaming, but just to listen and to be there for the student in as many ways as possible. And also just to create more events that can help students connect more to the SU. The other thing is that, for instance, in Colchester, there's a full board, all sabbatical officers that are part of that board. In Loughton this year, there was only three students who were doing that together, with different campus reps and that kind of conversation. But again, like 4 students, sorry. And I think that is important to notice, is like my goals would be to engage more students with the SU, have more people be a part of the team, have vice presidents, have different things like that. That's just a dream of how to have students engage more confidently with the SU, so that their voices are heard. I've seen it happen effectively in ways. One of my classmates is an incredible voice in just having things happen in the moment, and calling them out in the moment versus waiting. And I just really support that.
Great, thank you very much. And Helena?
Yeah, I think the main thing that I would do is make sure that students, particularly Black students, know that there is someone who is there to speak to, there is someone, a student on campus who is not faculty, that they can come to if there's an issue. I was representing the students in my cohort this year. So essentially I took their concerns, I took their feedback, and I presented it to my head of course if there were questions, if there were concerns. A lot of times it just came from miscommunication, and sometimes students aren't comfortable going to faculty directly. So being that person of contact is very important to me. There have been issues before with discrimination, with race on campus, and it's been very important to me to make sure that someone says something. And I've taken it upon myself to be that person. And I'm very comfortable in that role. I'm very comfortable with speaking up and speaking out, because if I don't say something, there's no guarantee that someone else will, and then the issue doesn't get addressed. And issues of discrimination and race have to be addressed immediately. So I would make sure that the students know that there is someone they can talk to, and there's someone who is representing them, and who can have conversations with faculty if they're not comfortable having those conversations.
Great, thank you very much. Okay, so the next question is still for everyone. So how will you ensure students have an improved social experience in the next academic year? Obviously taking into account COVID and how that will affect next year. Let's start with Helena.
Yeah, I think the biggest thing I would do is use social media more effectively. I've noticed that the Loughton campus, especially if I'm looking for SU events from anyone, I'll see some from the Colchester campus, a lot from the Colchester campus. I see almost none from the Loughton campus on anything. I've seen like yoga. Loughton yoga is amazing. It's great. I think that's one of the best SU events that we have on the Loughton campus, and I wish we had more things like that. That's something that's very regular, or something that engages students in a positive way. Ibrahim's done a great job of making sure that we have we had Afro music night, which was really cool. There was dance parties, which were a lot of fun. So I would try to make sure that events are pushed out a little bit more. This is something that I did do in my last university. So advertising is great. Making sure that the events are stuff that students actually want and not just stuff we think that they might want. So making sure that we're talking to students and seeing what they're actually interested, and then pushing for those events to actually happen.
Great, and Georgia?
Hi. I think this is a really important question, because I think there's a lack of identity at East 15 for the people who have joined this year and only been able to experience East 15 as an online course. My first year at East 15 was such an important time for me, and it was such a coming of age moment. And to know that so many young people and so many people who are older are coming to East 15, and this is their first experience with this drama school, and it's so different to what anyone before has experienced at East 15. I think more organized events, whether it has to be online or hopefully in person in the coming year, to reacquaint the new students with people who have already been here, maybe buddy systems. I think definitely student encouraged events. I know Loughton last year had a great student organized open mic night where people did dance, poetry, music. I would love to get that back and up again. I'd love to see scratch nights. I'd like to see writing sharings. I'd like open events for anyone, even if they don't know anyone from a different course, coming to East 15 or joining together online to show work they're passionate about. And I think that's all I have to say.
Great, thank you very much. And Lo?
Obviously, this year has totally been affected by COVID-19, and unsure of if next year when we come back, we'll be online or in person again, or some sort of blended learning. But for me, it just has to start off right. So having more Welcome Week events with the SU, connecting not only students from different cohorts, but also students from different communities. So connecting all the Black students, all the people of color, all of the queer LGBTQIA plus students, all the female identifying students. I think those kinds of things, if starting off a great Welcome Week in socializing students, can just start us off on the right track to connecting more in social events and having a range of activities, not just things like open mic nights, but drag nights, pub trivia. I mean, a bunch of people are missing the pub right now, and so like having those conversations come back, and also just having different guests come in that bring different communities. I think right now with every month is Black History Month events, like that has made more students engage with Black history, and I think that has created vital connections as well. And I think also not just connecting students because they're working together, but finding more projects that can happen outside of the school, out of the school hour, that connect students as well, in different ways. I think that's how I would view improving the social experience from this year.
Great, thank you very much. Okay, so next question is rather long, so I'm going to put it in the chat this time. So, how could student parliament be more effective for Loughton students, including how can be assured that Loughton voices are heard and given equal importance as students from Colchester and Southend campus? We'll start with Lo.
Yeah, being in Parliament, I can totally understand where this is coming from, and I think for me, the way to have Parliament be more effective is both to have more Loughton voices in the space, as well, and also to have Loughton students come up with policies of things that they want to be that they want to change and that they want help from the SU. I think it is all dependent on who is a part of Parliament as well, and I think it also is having a conversation with the SU about how we connect Colchester and Southend campus students with Loughton equally versus saying, oh, Colchester needs more social activities, Southend needs more social activities, but Loughton, they're artists, they're busy all the time, so they don't really care. I think is a misconception, and I want to have the artist's life and the conversations that are happening in Loughton in terms of what actors, directors, designers, all types of people care about, can be more effectively challenged in the SU, and connecting that with different SEOs from different campuses as well, such as the VP of Education, like the Disabilities Officer, to help support what is not happening in Loughton to happen in all of the SU as well.
Great, thank you very much. Helona?
Yeah, so I'm actually pretty good friends with the person that's the current Black officer for Loughton, and from what she's told me about the student parliament meetings, the biggest issue right now is communication. Because it seems that the times that they may start the meetings for student parliament do not align with Loughton. Acting students are normally in class until 6:30, sometimes 7 o'clock at night, and it can be very difficult for her at times to get to parliament meetings, or she'd be late, or she would just miss them altogether because we're just in class for that long. And I think what would help with that is representation, because everyone in different cohorts are on different timetables. So let's say actors have a priority week, they can't be there. Then maybe someone else, I know someone who's in stage management. If we're in priority week, she's not necessarily doing stage management. So someone from a different cohort who is on the Loughton campus, who's in the SU, could be very helpful. I think we need more people, we need more representatives to help. I think having a united front as a Loughton campus would also help. They seem to be very united at Colchester and at Southend, so I think trying to unite the SU members at Loughton is something that would also be very helpful.
Great, thank you. And Georgia?
I think, once again, I think social media would be really great for that. I feel like I found out about the opening for SU president from Ibrahim's wonderful email, whereas I have a friend now who's just going, oh my god, there's an LGBTQ officer, I didn't even read anything about that. And I think because a lot of Loughton students aren't always checking the University of Essex website, I feel like there should be a more streamlined way or a specific email that can be delivered to students telling them not only about SU president, but about Black officer, LGBTQ officers, Latino officers. There's also, unfortunately, not at the moment, but there's a lovely little box in the SU canteen that says, what can we improve? And I saw someone at least once a week writing something down and putting it in there, something constructive. Maybe we can find a way to do that digitally during COVID-19 and hopefully in person again once we get back to school. But maybe doing surveys once a month with students and asking them kindly to participate would give us a better idea of what students here want now, so we can better represent them. Yeah.
Great, thank you very much. Okay, next question. Have you identified issues between students and staff at East 15, and if so, what are they? Very direct question. Lo, can we start with you?
Yeah, totally. Currently, the East 15 staff and faculty does not represent their student body in terms of any form of identity, really. And so what seems to happen is that there is a lack of awareness from faculty about different communities and their needs. And when different communities come to them and talk to them about things that are happening to them or microaggressions or anything, the faculty is flabbergasted or gaslights or doesn't know what to say or directs them in a way where it becomes a loophole of finding who can help them. And so for me, yeah, totally. There's been the issues of the entire majority of the faculty not representing their students in any way or making the effort to understand students in any way. I think a big thing, for instance, are the living history projects that the conversations with students of different races in that limits, and faculty don't know what to do with that, and they become like frustrated with their students about like, you should be able to do this, like this is okay, this is totally comfortable, when it really isn't. And also just having different students who do speak up and who do say something, those students be pariahed in front of everyone or said like you're wrong in front of everyone or instantly challenged, even though they're speaking from their own experience that has nothing to do with the faculty's experience and identity as well. So I think there is just a lack of communication between students and a lack of awareness of what students' needs are, and faculty not believing what students care about.
Okay, thank you. And Georgia?
I think there's a disparity between what teachers believe to be drama school and what students believe to be drama school. I think, unfortunately, there is still this mentality with some teachers and guest practitioners that you do have to suffer for your art. And that doesn't necessarily mean working long hours and coming in early and staying late. It means emotional damage. I've seen it firsthand. It's not healthy. You shouldn't come home from school in tears because of something a teacher made you do. And I've seen that at this school. I mean, teachers can be harsh and the work can be hard, but you shouldn't feel emotionally disturbed by your school at any rate, no matter who you are, no matter where you come from. And there's a fundamental belief in some of the teachers that this is drama school, this is what you come here for, to be broken down and turned into a new person. But you're here to study and become a practitioner. And you don't deserve to have any microaggressions, sexism, racism, and disadvantages due to disability or mental illness. Like I referred earlier, I've had a lot of students with invisible and visible disabilities come to me and with absence issues and being basically told, well, how are you going to fix this? And not, how can the school help you fix this? Not being given proper adjustments. And they feel really beaten down by this. they feel really discouraged about the work they do because they don't feel like they're included the same way other students are. 4 out of 5 told me this, and it was absolutely appalling. So honestly, I think that teachers have a responsibility to adapt their schema of old drama school to be more like new drama school. It is an education. It's not a boot camp.
Okay, thank you very much. And Helena?
Yeah, I think a big issue that I see is just lack of representation. There is not one Black tutor at East 15, not one, in any of the cohorts. We're doing a show right now in my cohort, which is written by a Black British playwright. The role is me and the 3 other Black women playing the same part. It is not directed by a Black woman. And she acknowledges this. She acknowledges that if this were to be shown live, the playwright asked that it's specifically directed by a Black woman. And while everything is great, it's going great, there are still conversations and things that she cannot answer and she doesn't have answers to. And then it falls on us to answer those questions or to navigate that conversation. And it's unfair. It's traumatic. It's not something that we should have to do. Even when guest speakers are brought in, they never look like us. We have SU events, and luckily there are Black individuals, professionals who are brought in. But even when we speak to like casting directors or people in the industry, they're never, hardly ever people of color. And that's a huge issue. I think that there's an issue with microaggressions as well between faculty and students. I am fortunate where my head of course is fantastic at addressing those issues. If I've ever had an issue with racism on campus, I've gone to him directly, and he's always been able to fix those and to address them for me. But there have been issues where, for example, me and the other girls will be in class, our names are mixed up. The 4 of us don't look like each other. We don't have the same hair color. We don't have the same haircut at all. And we're mixed up as each other. That's a problem. That's invisible racism. That's an issue. So I think something like that is something that's definitely prevalent on campus. There's an issue where last year in the MFA Acting International course, there were no people of color. And that's an issue with casting and whoever controls the auditions. So.
Okay, thank you very much. So, next question is kind of on this topic. So, how do you think next year's East 15 president and Black officer should respond to complaints about something that has happened in class? No, wrong person. There we go. Everyone can read it now. Lovely. Helena, can you start?
Yeah, I think that if there's an issue where something has happened in the past, or not in the past, in the class, that's kind of why I'm here. I am if I were to have this role, I would be your Black officer. I am the person where I would hope a student would feel comfortable to come to me so that those issues can be addressed. There have been issues in this year alone where microaggressions or things that are blatantly racist have been said between students in class and the tutor not addressing them. That's happened many times, unfortunately, in my cohort, and it's not even been an entire year. And I've had to address those. I've had to go to my head of course myself, and I've had to tell him, like, this is what's happening. These people didn't feel comfortable, but I'm bringing it to your attention because it's not something that can be looked over. It's written all over the walls at East 15. It's in your policies, but it's something that needs to be addressed on the ground. It's something that has to be addressed immediately, and it's not something that can wait. If a student doesn't feel comfortable going to their tutor directly, I would hope they would come to someone in the SU, to a student, to know that they have a safe place. They have someone that they can talk to and someone who understands what they're going through. I'm lucky that we had a Black officer this year, but if I were to come to East 15 last year or before that, there would be no one who would represent me or no one I would feel comfortable coming to. So I would hope that a student would feel comfortable coming to someone in the SU to help them with that issue.
Great, thank you very much. And Lo?
Yeah, I think first and foremost, having a clear line of information and communication of how the student can help, of how the student can reach out for help about something that happens in class. So making sure that the student knows that they can come talk to the East 15 and the president and the Black officer, and also having and supporting the student in any way that they can help with, in terms of, okay, this is where you can go to have a conversation with your faculty member. Do you want me there? Do you not want me there? Who can come be there to support you? And if the faculty member has that meeting and they don't respond positively, or they respond negatively, or nothing changes at all, this having another clear line of chain of events of, okay, the student can come talk to the SU, and we as president and black officer can go and make it a bigger issue with the SU, so that the SU makes it a bigger issue with the faculty member and the university at large. Because there has been conversations with what has been happening on campus, and that has gone to the SU, and then the SU has escalated it up to a way. There was one of my classmates is deafened, and she spent the whole first semester not getting the education that she needed because the faculty didn't want to make the effort of how to help the student get the help that they needed to have interpreters in class. And it wasn't until the women's officer and the SU made an effort and pushed the school to make an effort that changed, and now we have interpreters in class. So I think clear lines of communication and information that students have of how we can help with class.
Great, thank you very much. And Georgia?
In the past, when I was a military cadet, I had to be in the complaints office to make a complaint myself. I had to, unfortunately, help other young girls make some complaints. And if I was in the unfortunate yet realistic situation where a student trusted me and I was able to hear their story about any unfortunate situation with a tutor or a teacher or a student at the school, I would probably sit down, have a conversation with them about how they feel, what they'd like to do about it. I would probably then take them to their either cohort leader, but if they're not comfortable with going to them, there's also student services, and there's also their personal tutor. I think there should be an absolutely zero tolerance policy for any harassment or unfortunate situation on the school, because I've seen it happen to people and them just wave it off because they think it'll be more hassle to report it than to let it go. And I never want a student to think that they're going to have to go through a hassle to say something horrific or unfortunate that happened to them. I'd want to be there to make it as easy and supportive a process as I could, to find them the right people to talk to.
Great, thank you so much. So next question is, how important do you think it is to hold the university to account, and how well do you think this is being done at present? Georgia, can you go first?
Yes. How important is it to hold the university account, and how well do you think it's being done at present? I think it is of the utmost importance for the students to have the knowledge and information to hold the university accountable for their promises. Like I said earlier, I did a lot of reading on the University of Essex website on their diversity and equality reports and their promises on anti-racism, and they are fantastic. But like I said, I've reached out to a lot of students in the year above and below me and the same year as me, and I've had a conversation with them about how they feel anti-racism, classism, sexism, homophobia, and disability is handled in the school, and it was shocking. They are deeply unhappy with the way sexism is being dealt with, disability. They really are unhappy with the lack of mental health resources. And I could tell you what I think of my personal opinion, but I think it's more important for me to represent the people that I care about. And those people are currently disappointed with what the university is providing. They've promised some fantastic things, and they've made great strides. And I will admit that they put in effort to make changes, but they need to keep doing the work. And I think it's incredibly important that as student president, I do the research to make sure I know what they've promised so I can educate the students and make sure we all hold them accountable for keeping their promises so that we have a more peaceful and slightly more open campus.
Great, thank you. And Lo?
I think it's incredibly important to have the university be held accountable, not just by the SU, but by the students themselves. And I think that shouldn't just be happening cohort to cohort, depending on what situation rises up, but more about how does the whole university can change towards those have those changes. Currently, in the university, there's been conversations at the student voice groups about making the toilets in Roding House gender neutral, so that female identifying students don't have to walk all around the building just to go use the restroom. And the conversations that we've gotten back is like, oh, we would have to take away the urinals in order to from the school. And so now, like, we as an SU are in Loughton are trying to get more student engagement in that, so that the university is held accountable and said, this is a ridiculous reason of why those toilets can't be gender neutral, and having that conversation with them. And I think currently COVID-19 is a huge impediment in physically holding the university accountable, but it has not stopped people from doing that. And so I think as a president, I would just want to further encourage students to have the voice to hold the university accountable, and to know the appropriate, again, lines of communication and lines of action that they can take to support, to have that accountability, whether it is filling out surveys, whether it is having discussions with course leaders, with their mentors, just more clarity, more communication, and more listening from the course heads and cohorts.
Great, thank you very much. And Helena?
Yeah, I think it's essential that the students hold the university accountable. We're paying to be here. We're paying to be students at this university. So I think it's well within our right to hold them accountable for their actions, especially if they're going to outline certain things in their policies and their codes of conduct. I think we should be able to hold them accountable to those. I think that my cohort's doing amazing. I think that we're doing amazing when it comes to responding to things and holding itself accountable. However, that goes in to say, while one cohort, is able to hold the university responsible, the rest have not had that kind of success. And a lot of the success that we've been able to have in my cohort is due to students pushing and pushing and pushing. It shouldn't have to be that hard. We shouldn't have to push and constantly try to get our voices heard when it's something that should be basic or essential. And I think that the university as a whole doesn't do a great job of that. We're able to address racism in my cohort, but then I'm hearing from other cohorts that they're still having issues with racism. That means the university did not address it as they were supposed to. There's issues still with sexual harassment. I've had issues with that in my own cohort. I've heard from other people in other cohorts that they're still having those issues, and that the university is not addressing them like they should be. So I think that we need to make sure that student voices are heard, and that the university is being held up to their standards, up to what they're saying that they're going to do. It's one thing just to say you're going to do something, and it's another thing completely to actually do them. And I think the university has a lot of really nice writing, or really nice policies, but they don't always carry that out, and I know that's frustrating for a lot of students.
Great, thank you so much. Okay, so the next question is for East 15 president only, so for Lo and Georgia. So, how should next year's East 15 president actively and directly seek to be president for all individual students?
Again, I think the biggest thing is to listen. And to be a listening voice for students. Right now, for instance, Ibrahim is doing school-wide drop-in sessions in every Monday, so that students can come in and talk to him if they need to, or if they just need to connect with someone. But I think for me, for next year, something that I would want to encourage is to have the president be a part of more Welcome Week events, and to have a scheduled meeting with every single cohort, either together or separately, in terms of with faculty or not with faculty, but just making sure that they put a name to the face of who they come talk to. And a potential possibility is to have the president eat lunch in the SU, and just make sure that every lunch hour the president will be there to listen, or a different SU officer. So I think that is the way that I would make sure that I'm addressing all students, so that I can listen to all students and actively checking in with each rep of each cohort. Hey, how's it going? What do you need? What do you feel your cohort needs in different ways? And also checking in with different communities as well. I think that for me is the way to encourage them to be all students, and just to be forthright and to say, listen, I'm an MFA director. I might not understand what's going on in the contemporary and the international, but I am there to listen, and I can have different conversations with people to be there. Yeah, thank you.
Great, thank you very much. Georgia?
I think an especially important part about being East 15 president next year is openness. Very much similar to what Ibrahim is doing. I would also like to be able to have office hours certain times in the week where I could be in the SU or the library, and I know people can come and talk to me. Whether I know them or not, they can come and explain a problem or a situation they have. I think it would be really useful to utilize social media in a better way if we were to have the East 15 page for maybe the SU, for the Students' Union and its representatives, the Student Parliament. And if we were to get a DM on that, like, I'm having trouble with this, I'm having trouble with this, we'd have admins like LGBTQ, Black, POC officers to help with certain issues. I think it would be really easy for people to reach out via social media, or if they had any questions or comments. I think that's a really streamlined way of seeing things. Yeah, I really think contact's important. I would try, if I was East 15 president, to attend just about every SU event, if not all of them, to make sure I was there and that people would know I'd be there. I'd email going, oh, there's this event tonight, be sure you're there, I'll see you there. And if they had a problem, they could come talk to me, but also if they had any questions, they could just enjoy the night and I'd be there.
Great, thank you so much. The next question is just for Helona, so here it is. Should next year's Loughton Black officer actively and directly seek to engage with and represent all Black students at Loughton?
Yeah, I think first and foremost, as we all know, there are probably, unfortunately, not going to be that many Black students. But with that being said, it would give me the opportunity to actually meet everyone individually, whether that's over Zoom, if COVID is still present, or in person. I've been able to meet all of the Black students in my cohort. I've been able to connect with Black students in other cohorts who are BA students, who are in different programs. And that's something that's very important to me. I think that it's very important to create a sense of community as Black individuals on campus. I think that we're often left out of the conversation when it comes to unity and representation on campus. And I think it's something that is so important, especially with the campus that doesn't necessarily represent us. It's something that I would like to do. I'd like to have events that focus on Black students. I would like to make sure that we are all able to contact each other, to connect with each other. I'd want to have times where we could just speak and decompress, because there's just going to be issues that only Black students will be able to relate to. It's been very helpful for me to connect with the other Black students currently on campus and just have those days where we can just compress it all out, let it all out, say our piece, and then be able to be like, okay, like, I feel good. I have someone who understands me, who knows what I'm going through, and I'm able to keep going forward. And I think that's something that's very important. I remember at the beginning of the year, I attended an event, and a student at a different campus, a Black student, had said that he feels like he can't make friends with other Black students on his campus. That's not acceptable. It's just not okay, where they feel that they can't even approach other Black students on campus. So I think being able to connect with each of them individually and then being able to bring us all together virtually or in person is something that I definitely want to be able to do if I was Black officer.
Great, thank you very much. So this next question is for everyone. How have you shown so far during your time at East 15 that you can be trusted to challenge issues that arise for students? Georgia, can you start?
The first time I was at East 15, all I had were questions. During the recall and the audition where they were meant to ask me questions, all I did was ask them questions. I just basically grilled them for an hour about the school, and then I went home and did like an hour's research. And then last year during COVID-19, I was made class rep. That was because the teacher already had my email, because I tried to take my whole class to go to a fringe show. Almost in my first month, I sat him down and said, I'm doing a fringe show. Unfortunately, it didn't end up working out because of COVID-19, but since my first day here, I've wanted to make as much of an effort as I can to make this school better than I found it. I help organize meetings, Zoom meetings for teachers who don't know how. I help organize equipment. I've been producing my whole year this year at East 15, helping my school, bringing in extra stuff, making props last year. I want to put in the extra mile because I really love working hard. And I really love this school, and it's given me the opportunity to create all these different things and take responsibility for helping the people here, and I really want to take it. I'm really willing to challenge the school. I think it's important to always question authority. I think it's important to make sure your authority is just as educated as you, because I think it's a mistake to think that there isn't going to be miscommunication between staff and teachers. I'm patient, I'm hardworking, and I'm willing to do the research to make sure that the school's being held accountable for the things they're promising, and I'm willing to challenge them on that.
Great, thank you very much. Helena?
Yeah, well, I'm someone where if I see something happen, if I see something wrong, I am someone who has to say something. I can't let things slide. If something happens that should not be happening, I am not someone who can sit back and just let it happen. And I have been the student rep for my cohort this year, and I've had to deal with those issues since day one. There have been issues that different students have come to me directly and said, hey, X, Y, and Z happened, and I'm not comfortable going. Will you please talk to head of course? Will you please help me, know what to say to this tutor so I can have this issue resolved? I've had to do that many times for students. It's not something where I feel bothered by it. It's something where I feel genuinely helpful, and it's something that feels like if they need someone to help them, I want to be that person who can help them. I've had meetings with my head of course personally as well, especially when things kind of go wrong, or when there's things where I'm like, okay, that was definitely not okay. No one is saying anything about it, so I'm going to say something about it, and I'm going to do it now. I think that as far as East 15 goes, the faculty has emphasized that we're on a level playing field with them, and I use that to my full advantage. If we're on a level playing field, then I think that it's within our rights as students to respectfully address the faculty, and if something happens, to say, look, this wasn't okay, I'm not okay with this is harmful, and it needs to be addressed. So I'm not afraid to be that person. I'm not afraid to have those tough, difficult conversations. And I would hope that a student can trust that even if it feels really, really tough, that I'm willing to have that conversation if it needs to happen.
Great, thank you very much. And Lo?
Yeah, I think speaking from my own experience and from my own identity, from my interview, I have started questioning my course leader about their work in anti-racism. So that was one of my first questions in why I would come to this school. In our first meeting as a cohort, as a first year cohort, I asked, how is this course changing with anti-racism? And how are we effectively doing that? And when that answer wasn't satisfactory, I had a conversation with our course leader. And then when more and more microaggressions were happening in the room, specifically with race, I again challenged our course leader and said, hey, I think this needs to be a conversation. And we held a full afternoon event with our cohort about conversations about race and racism and anti-racism, specifically in our work as directors and who we can be. Also, I was the first student to volunteer to be a student rep for one of the student reps for my course. And I also did run and am the student community officer for people of color. So for me, I have been passionately trying to shift how the school changes. I've had meetings with Chris Main. I've had conversations with different SU officers about what we can be doing. And also calling things out in the moment has been happening as well, rather than waiting. There's been situations where a faculty member didn't know how to approach a situation, and I said, hey, like, I can help, or in many different sorts of ways. And so I think I've been actively trying to shift the school from my own experience. I can note that it is very focused on anti-racism. And as president, I would want to expand that to the entire communities that are at East 15.
Great, thank you very much. So penultimate question, here we go. What tools and resources do you think the successful candidate needs to be able to get the job done effectively next year? Lo, can you start?
I think it's a very simple answer, and that's just like more of a cabinet and more of an SU presence in Loughton. Again, this year, 4 students ran for these positions this current school year, and now 3 students have run for this position. So again, like, I think having more students represented in the SU will be a tool for both the president and for the SEO officers to engage more with the students. And I also think having more of an awareness and more access to things like emails and social media in order to have that. And I think also having, as much as faculty is going through anti-racism, sexual assault, all of those trainings, I think the president as a tool should be going through that and researching and educating themselves about what is happening in each cohort, in each world, I think is important. But biggest answer is just get more people involved in the SU.
Great, thank you very much. And Helona?
Yeah, I think that the biggest thing, the biggest resource is communication. I know that even when it comes to running for this position, I really only knew that the position was open because I am friends with the current Black officer, and she told me that she was not running this year. I had to dig through the East 15 website to even be able to find where I could apply for the position. And that's communication somewhere. Something didn't happen and it should have happened. So it makes sense that there may not be as many people running if students don't even know that positions are open. Ibrahim's been doing an amazing job at that, but I think that there needs to be more effort. And I know that comes with having more people. In my own experience running an organization, I know that having 2 people, it is very difficult to run an organization. When we had 16, it was a lot smoother because then you don't have to run everything by yourself. It's a lot easier when you have more people to help you out, especially when it comes to having to talk to faculty, having to show up for big events, show up for big meetings. It's a nice feeling when you have people there with you, when you have people who can help you out versus having to be there and just have to do all of the work all of the time. It's nice to be able to share that with other people who are on your team.
Great, thank you very much. And Georgia?
Hi. I definitely think the students, are the most important tool a president could have. I mean, without students, there wouldn't be a president, obviously, but if you listen, they will tell you what they want, what they need, what they care about. I've spent the past week sitting down in my lunches after class, texting, talking to people I don't usually talk to, asking students questions, wondering how they've been with Zoom, with school in general. And I've learned so much about the school that I never knew. Good sides and really unfortunate sides. And that spurred me on to sit down and do research about what is the school promise, what does the school want to do, and how would I change that? And I wouldn't have been able to sit down and have this debate this time a week ago before I talked to any of these people. The people I've spoken to and the students I've had the privilege from hearing from have been the most important tool I've had in this race. They've given me all the insight and more that I could ever need.
Great, thank you very much. So the final question is a bit more of a fun one, let's put it that way, after all the heavy speech. This one can be answered by you as well, Helena. You'll have to adapt it a bit, but which celebrity would you employ as your vice president? It's a bit of a East 15 specific one, I guess, with all the acting and so on. I'll give you a minute to think about it. I can see pensive faces. Do we all have a name in mind? Okay, Helena's got a name in mind. You can start then.
If I had to employ anyone as like a co-Black officer, I would employ Viola Davis. I think she's amazing. Viola Davis started in theater school, in the theater before she moved to TV and film. And her TV and film career didn't start until she was a bit older. And I've always admired her work because she is someone who will always ask the questions. She always asks the questions that people don't want to answer. I can remember she had a lot of negative feedback on a guest appearance she did on a TV show in the States because she was angry. And she said, how come, white men and white women can be angry on TV, but I can't? Why can't I be angry too? Why am I not allowed to be angry? And she's right. She's someone who always pushes the envelope a little bit. She's someone who always speaks up for her rights. Her and her husband have a company that supports small artists and helps them produce their films. So she's someone who I would love to have on my team to help represent Black students at East 15, if I could have any celebrity.
Great, thank you very much. And Georgia?
Okay, mine's a lot less cool than that. He counts as a celebrity, I promise. I would most definitely, 10,000%, no regrets, have Paddington Bear as my vice president. He's an incredibly hard worker, if you've seen both the films, which I have multiple times. He always has time to sit down and have a chat with someone, no matter who they are, no matter where they come from, no matter if they're nice to him or mean to him. He just cares about how they're doing. He's very polite, and he's ever the optimist, and he always makes the best out of bad situations, and that would be the type of person I'd want on my team. He's just so huggable as well, and marmalade,
Thank you very much. And Lo?
So if we were talking about someone who would be really effective as a vice president, I would choose Jamila Jamil, the actor Jamila Jamil. Big reason why is because she represents a demographic that I don't represent, and I don't think my vice president should look like me or be like me at all. It should be someone who is passionate about what they talked about, is passionate about things. She's passionate about things like body image and South Asian representation, and also is an actor and so understands how East 15 works. And also, if we're just there for a good time, the person I would ask would be Gemma Collins, because she tells it like it is, and is also just a fun part of Essex. And I think that would just be a blast. Might not be as effective as Jamila Jamil, but who knows? Co-vice presidents, maybe. Yeah.
Great, thank you so much for your answers. This concludes, to an extent, the debate. I'll give all the candidates a minute to wrap things up and tell us why we should vote for them. I will mention that obviously in both roles there will be a Ron candidate, which is reopened for nominations, which is a candidate in itself. And if you have any more questions, I'm sure the candidates will be happy to answer them if you send them email or, as we've mentioned, social media. That's probably more effective. So I'll give all the candidates a minute to wrap things up and say why they should vote for them. So Lo, can you start us off?
Yeah, I think no matter what happens on March 10th through March 12th, my main goal is just to get more students to vote in the Loughton election. So as many students to have a voice as possible, not just the 80 who check their emails or found the candidate on social media. And specifically why to vote for me is because I have experience of how the SU works and how I can help change it for the better for East 15 students. As a directing student, I am here to listen and to lead effectively in all awareness. And also, I know that the most important thing is to better the student experience. And whether that's a social fun thing or having more voices for the students to be held accountable, for faculty to be held accountable. That's why I think you should vote for me. Thank you so much for being here.
Great, thank you. And Georgia?
Hiya. I can be really bubbly and smiley and a lot of things and a bit ditzy, but I'm also an incredibly hard worker. I think that there's no such thing as talent. I think it's all hard work. I think you earn talent, you create it. And I know everyone at this school is here because they've worked incredibly hard to be here. And I'm going to ask even more from them. And I'm going to ask them to help me leave the school better than we found it. It would be such an amazing achievement, especially because of all the things we've been through. There's so many different generations and walks of life at East 15 more than ever before. And I would love the privilege of being able to sit down and get to know so many of those people, where they came from, what they want to do, and really help them with their student experience. Thanks.
Great, thank you very much. And obviously for a different role for Black Officer, Helena, can you wrap things up?
Yeah, I think that the students should vote for me because I do have experience leading an organization and making a positive impact on my campus. I am personable. I promise that I am, I'm fun, I'm funny, I have jokes, guys, I swear I'm fun too. But I'm not afraid to have tough conversations either. I'm not. And, I'm someone who's down to earth. I'm easy to relate to, and I'm someone who really wants to make sure that Black students are represented. I know what it feels like to not be represented on your campus, to not have faculty, to not have staff be in your corner. So I want to make sure that at East 15, we have someone who is able to have those conversations to make sure that the faculty is in our corner, to make sure the school is held accountable for everything they said that they would do. Thank you.
Thank you, everyone, for coming, and thank you for the candidates for answering amazingly all these questions. Don't forget to vote. It's really important, whether it's from Colchester, Southend, and Loughton, more importantly today. Starts on the 10th at 10 a.m. and it goes until the 12th. Don't forget to vote, and join the last day of debates tomorrow for a more general position of President and VP engagement and community. So thank you everyone for coming, and have a good evening.